More than 20 people, barebe pati ni babidi. Bagamba. Fish to Arufianya. People have died. Mumino Yabaka Pogola. The police killing people. Why? In the same government, Bagamba, abductions have happened. Bagamba. If you're not with them, it's either you're dead or you're in prison. This government, you're going to change big man. Fish to Arfianya Pakubika Moves. Fish to Arfianya. Why me? Missing. Achani Rubamwaicho and Dizona. Where is why me? HH, tell us with your government, where is why me? Give us why me. Justice for why me, big man. Wachila mo HH. Wala tupwisha bega kutupwisha Magamba. That's why they go for the big man. My youth, my no matata. Something to say, Magamba. When it's at top when it. Mujala Jetsu. It's a Zambia. Tuamona mwempwa. Tuamona mwempwa. I'm abduction program. Oh, we take a toileta. What do let the lama? Amazara mush. No, you can take her. What I bump today? No, you can take her. Up and on Babane. Oh, full up, I'm full up. Oh, full up, I'm full up. I could go Tabane. Oh, full up, I'm full up. Oh, full up, I'm full up. I could Fuatica. Oh, full up, I'm full up. Makufuatika fuatika mufulo pa mufulo when you taya kwa fwe mufulo pa mufulo aikona man mufulo pa mufulo ikaya kwa fwe mufulo pa mufulo yakuliati kwenyu mufulo pa mufulo mayona batata bayuthi tentwisuli amenso batusendela nomba batwipaira na hope yesu endika chagwa lungu watubela tinani mikwatila plan B nomba tuwalishima plan B abamumino yakwalesa bantu banga abalafa muchalo chesu cha Zambia nibanga abantu abala abducted muchalo chesu cha Zambia bambire kuli jeje banda nibanga abantu abala ba prison abena chitotela chilangwa bonze baba prison netunguru shina shimbi muri one government yakwa HH abantu naba kwamweleza aikata nomba baikata kuyetika chakwa lungu atukwatile plan B abakubo byabyo mufulo big man mufulo pa mufulo bilabine batsendela yetika chakwa apa nomba bane mufulo pa mufulo bakuvota bane mufulo pa mufulo bakufuatika mufulo pa mufulo bakufuatika mufulo pa mufulo when you taya kwa fwe mufulo pa mufulo aikona man mufulo pa mufulo itaya kwa fwe mufulo pa mufulo yakuliati kwenyu mufulo pa mufulo HH does not mean well for Mother Zambia. Zambia to Asebana, this is not the Mother Zambia that we were left with by our ancestors, our forefathers who fought so hard to liberate us. Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, Nalumino Mundia, Mama Julia Chikamoneka, Simon Mwansaka Pwepwe, they fought so hard to put this country on the map, to put this country where it is today. No man would destroy this country because we believe in unity. One Zambia, one nation, and we shall together we will change, and we are going to change this government. My name is Blaze Zambia.
Good day. Today is 11th of November 2025. Thank you very much for joining us. I'd like to apologize that we had scheduled former leader of the opposition, former chief whip, former Northern Province minister, Brian Mundubile, who's also a presidential candidate for this broadcast today. But Brian and his team just called that he was unable to come today because he's got some commitments. He was in Luapula. He just arrived and there was some important meeting that came up, and he requested that we reschedule his broadcast. Well, this is your show for all candidates. We've made this show available. We've made it a point that we cover whoever it is in the opposition. A dear brother of mine, Masheke, Akashambato Masheke, is Secretary General of the Association of Zambians in the United States and is a member of the UPND, challenged me that why are you not bringing the UPND to your forum? I said, well, I don't know how many times I've challenged the UPND leadership to come to this forum. On this forum, I've invited President Hakainde Hichilema to come and discuss with us. If he's brave enough, if he's man enough, this is a professional setting. Many people will attest that when I sit here, I'm not sitting as Emmanuel Mwamba, who is either PF or a presidential candidate. When I sit here, I sit as a professional. And many people, many guests will attest to you that they feel comfortable. We just discuss national issues, whether it's Fred Membe, Harry Kalava, or any of my colleagues in the Patriotic Front, or colleagues in civil society. Remember, I brought Laura Miti, who spent time attacking the late President Edgar Lungu, and I didn't mind. I just conducted an interview. I wanted to know who Laura Miti is, where she grew up, what forms her vision, what forms her opinions, why does she support President Hakainde Hichilema, what is a reflection of the state of the nation. So President Hakainde Hichilema, I throw this challenge to you. If you wish to come on this platform, like Masheke Akashambato has said, you are welcome, and I'm glad to host you. We are going to have a discussion. I've done 2 letters in the past where I wanted to discuss the state of our debt in our nation. And just a minute, I've got some background noise. Yeah. So, I did 2 letters to the Minister of Finance. And the Minister of Finance, Honorable Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane, I wanted us to discuss the debt. In fact, if there is any imperative time that we should discuss the debt of our country, it is now. A foreign expert who's just looking at the issues of Zambia, independent, objective, just called me and said, Ambassador, do you know that your total debt in the country, public debt, may be between $48 to $50 billion? Do you know that your public debt has jumped, your total public debt has jumped from $32 billion to $50 billion? And I said, no, don't alarm me. I know our foreign debt has jumped from $11.9 billion to $15.8 billion. They said, no, that's just foreign debt. Do you know that private debt, this is a debt that people like KCM, people like ZESCO and others, state-owned enterprises and the private sector borrowing from international banks, has also jumped to something like $12 billion from $6 billion. Because remember, we have got good credit ratings. So Chilanga Cement, Zambia Sugar, ZESCO, Zamtel, and others can actually borrow from the international markets. So our private debt has jumped. Then the domestic debt, our domestic debt is in excess of between $10 and $12 billion. Arrears, those monies owed to contractors, suppliers, has also jumped to something like $4, $5, $6 billion. So when you total up the debt from 2021, when the debt, depending on the exchange rate, especially for the domestic rate, was between total public debt was between 25 and private debt was between 25 and $31 billion. This foreign expert was telling me that that debt has jumped to $50 billion. So when would it be a better time to host Dr. Situmbeko Msokotwane or Felix Nkulukusa from the Ministry of Finance? So Aka, the challenge is yours. My platform is ready. I am willing to host whoever I wish to host. I was doing this chit chat because I was waiting for my guest, and I can see my guest in the studio. He has arrived. I'll be joined by renowned Lusaka lawyer. He recently won a major case which failed Bill 7. Bill 7 was en route, was just a few days away from becoming law. Celestine Mukandila, a Lusaka lawyer, and former Lumezi MP, Munia Zulu, had taken an application, a silent, quiet one, but the outcome literally was a tremor, was an earthquake, which killed and buried Bill 7. The president is trying to resurrect it. So I've invited Celestine Mukandila to help me with discussions, issues happening in the PF, issues happening in the opposition, Tonse Alliance and others, the state of the country from the Chingola crisis to the inherent crisis that we are facing, ECZ matters, and then the state of the nation. So let me welcome my dear brother, Celestine Mukandila. Celestine, welcome and thank you for coming at such a short notice, and thank you for making yourself available.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for having me here, and I really appreciate this opportunity.
Celestine, the country owes you a debt of gratitude. You and Munia Zulu literally failed Bill 7. But aren't you disappointed that Bill 7 is rising from the grave and is doing a resurrection? Just walk us through when you won this matter and where we are at. Why is the Speaker not complying with the directives of the court? Why is the Minister of Justice not complying with the issues?
Well, clearly, when you look at the issue of Bill 7, the reality is the Zambian people had spoken. The Zambian people had spoken through civil society organizations. They had spoken through the Law Association of Zambia. They had spoken through the church and many other platforms to indicate that Bill 7 was not actually originated in a manner that spoke to the views and aspirations of the Zambian people. And in essence, the reality was that this particular bill was not made in such a way that the Zambian people were consulted. And because of that, we decided with my good comrade, and by the way, Honorable Munir Zulu and myself come a long way. He was actually my president, student union president, and I was his vice president.
Oh, I
and
see.
We've come a long way. So we decided in essence. Yes. So we actually decided in essence to say, I think ours is a call for service to the nation, and I think we must be able to ensure that we challenge the process upon which this Bill 7 came about. Because we already have a case where the Law Association of Zambia challenged the enactment of a bill, and it failed, but the Constitutional Court gave guidance as to whether it can be possible to challenge a bill. However, what we did was to say, no, we are not challenging a bill. What we are challenging is the process upon which the bill came about. And that's exactly what we did. And we are very glad that the Constitutional Court, in delivering its judgment, indicated that there were 10 successive provisions of the Constitution that were violated by this government. And looking at the fact that those 10 provisions that were violated were supposed to be those that should have guided the nation as to how a constitution, or is it how a constitution can be amended, or how a constitutional amendment bill can come about. So in essence, you'll be able to also notice that the court also gave yet another order where the court indicated that they order that the respondent, being the state, must go with the spirit of the Constitution. Now, when you look at the way the judge is, the judgment of the Constitutional Court and the guidance of the Constitutional Court is such that the court indicated that, one, when coming up with a constitutional amendment bill, you must be able to ensure that this is a document that speaks to the aspirations of the people. How? It must be one that goes out there to consult the Zambian people. Because the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia is not an ordinary document. We're looking at the grand norm. Now, this document entails that the Zambian people have to be consulted when coming up with provisions. And the Constitutional Court actually gave further guidance to indicate that, you see, successive governments or successive processes that have been used to amend the Constitution have always utilized a platform which was such that the Inquiries Act would be effected, would be put into effect, where the president would institute a commission of inquiry, which will be a constitution-making commission, which commission will be able to go around and get the views of the Zambian people as to what exactly they intend to be contained in the bill. And that is how it's always been. So that case actually indicated that there's a legitimate expectation that has since been created when coming up with the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia. So the legitimate expectation entails that there is a commission of inquiry, which commission of inquiry or committee is given terms of references. Now, these TOs will be able to provide the roadmap as to what exactly this commission is to do. They will be able to provide the time frame upon which the powers within which this committee rests. So, in essence, this is a commission of inquiry. And when you look at the Inquiries Act, by the way, it even provides that this is a commission or a committee that is independent. The most important and critical thing in constitution making is one where, as per guidance of the Constitutional Court, by the way, one where you come up with an independent body of experts. Now, this independent body of experts will go out there and seek for provisions, opinions from the Zambian people as to what provisions must be amended in the Constitution. And that is the guidance of the Constitutional Court. Surprisingly, we have seen this regime deciding not to withdraw the bill in essence, and which is extremely, extremely dangerous because, you see, court judgments, court rulings are supposed to be respected, and they are supposed to be respected by every member of this country. Every person has to respect the court judgment. In essence, the reason why we've got the court, of course, the Zambian people know, is because of even the concept of checks and balances. We need to check the operations of the executive. We need to check the operations of the legislature. And that is why we've got the courts. The concept of separation of powers is there to ensure that we have arms of government not exercising powers that they may not even have, or powers beyond what they're supposed to. So in essence, that was the concept where the courts have guided that in order for one to decide to amend the Constitution, first things first should be to look at the legitimate expectation. In short, this court has actually given us a procedure for amending the Zambian Constitution. Now, surprisingly, and in a very disappointing manner, we saw the President of the Republic of Zambia instituting a committee which they termed a committee of experts. Now, this committee in itself, when you look at it, you'll be able to understand that the law that the president used, which is Article 92(2)(f), is one that provides for the appointment of special duties officers or special duties personnel. Now, these special duties personnel ought to conduct an executive function. In essence, when you look at this committee, it's actually performing an executive duty. So when you look at it in that way, the reality is it is not independent because it's performing an executive duty. But the court guided that what we needed to do is to appoint an independent body of experts. The independent body of experts was going to be appointed by way of using the Inquiries Act. That would have been appreciated. I don't think anyone would have opposed the appointment of this committee using the Inquiries Act because it creates independence. When you look at the provisions of the Inquiries Act, you'll be able to realize that that commission that is appointed using the Inquiries Act has got independence, and it also has the force of the High Court, because the way the commission would be appointed using the Inquiries Act, in an event where, Ambassador, you are summoned to go and give evidence or to go and give an opinion or to go and submit at the commission and you decide not to go, it carries with it the pain of being in contempt of the commission because it has the power of the High Court. So that is why it was extremely important to use the procedure or the guidance, to follow the guidance of the Constitutional Court in coming up with this commission. So where we are today, we are looking at a commission or a committee, for example, this same committee of experts that has been appointed using the wrong law. Why is it using the wrong law? It is because they used a law that provides for an executive function. So those colleagues that have been going around the country, obtaining views from the Zambian people, they are actually doing so illegally. And I'm going to justify why I even say they are doing so illegally. Interestingly, I don't know whether our colleagues just decide to do things without reading or they just decide to do things out of malice. The reason why I indicate...
Just on that point, Celestine, it's a very strong matter. You've stated that they're participating in an illegal process, but it may not be far off because major stakeholders, including the Oasis Forum yesterday, issued a very strong statement that the process lacked legitimacy. There was no legal framework. In short, in polite terms, the process is illegal. So the question is, why would a respected man like Judge Mushabati, retired Supreme Court judge, participate and lead an illegal process? Why would a renowned drafts person in Evajala, who's currently the Commissioner Vice Chair of the Judicial Complaints Commission, sit on an illegal process? What is this?
It's extremely disappointing, actually. I think our good comrades, the retired judge and those that are of legal status are actually working on thin ice to damaging the legacy, the good legacy that they may have had when running the affairs of the country or when serving the country. It's very disappointing because we'll speak to issues that first begin with their appointment. Their appointment was done using a wrong law. I would have expected that the judge would have informed, as a first order of business, the judge would have informed the Republican president that, Mr. President, you have used a law that will not allow me to be independent because I will be performing an executive function, and therefore I request that you use the correct law. I would have expected the judge to do that. Unfortunately, it has not been done. I would have expected that these colleagues would have requested that the right procedures are used. Now, why am I saying procedures also? I'm mentioning issues, words like procedures. The colleagues that have been appointed, they've been appointed as special duties officers. Now, the appointment of such individuals require that even their remunerations have to be stated. Their emoluments have to be approved. The only authority in Zambia that is responsible for approving remunerations or emoluments of public officers is the Emoluments Commission. It is very interesting, Ambassador, to note that currently, as we are talking, the remuneration or the emoluments commission has not sat to approve these allowances that these colleagues are actually drawing, because we know for a fact that the chairperson of the Emoluments Commission is not in the country. We know for a fact that the chairperson of the Emoluments Commission is not in the country, and they have not called for a sitting. And then we also know for a fact that there are two, there's one commissioner who was a judge who was fired unceremoniously, and there is also another person who was a member of the Emoluments Commission, who was the late clerk of the National Assembly. Now, you see, when you look at the provisions of the Emoluments Commission Act, they actually provide that, for example, the chairperson is the only person which is an office that cannot be delegated. But the other positions, for example, the Act provides that there should be a representative from the clerk of the National Assembly and not the substantive clerk of the National Assembly. There should be a representative of the Minister of Finance, for example. There should be a representative of the Speaker. Is it not the Speaker, but the representative of the Chief Justice of the Republic? So, in essence, when you look at the composition of the Emoluments Commission, it's a 7-man commission, which currently, in its current state, may not even have the capacity to call for a sitting in order to approve these emoluments. So maybe we may ask or pose this question to the Secretary to the Cabinet as to what law he used to ensure that these colleagues even start drawing allowances. Because even the sittings that are undergoing right now are as a result of emoluments that ought to have been approved. Now, if at all, that is my opinion, if at all, the Secretary to the Cabinet is going to assume that they're using the circular that was used by Michael Sata in 2011, the circular that was used for these commissions, then it means that this committee is actually using an archaic circular, because according to Section 36 of the Emoluments Commission Act, it has actually provided that on the enactment of this act, which is the Emoluments Act, all other circulars that provided for emoluments cease to exist. And that is how it is. And for me, I feel and believe the moment we have this committee sitting and getting views from the Zambian people without the right authority to even allow them to draw monies from taxpayers, that in itself is illegal and unconstitutional. So there are many constitutional issues that we need to be looking at here. Apart from the fact that they've been appointed using the wrong law, which is unconstitutional, they've equally, why I say it's unconstitutional is because the Constitutional Court guided as to what ought to be done. The reason I'm saying it's unconstitutional that they're even drawing allowances or salaries from this process they've been undertaking is because the Emoluments Committee or Commission has not approved their emoluments. If they are going to claim that they approve their emoluments, they should now tell the Zambian people how they even sat or how they even called for the commission to even sit. Because as far as I understand, government operations are public. As far as I'm concerned, perhaps even the Secretariat for the Emoluments Commission, they are out in the field. They are collecting data out in the field. So there is no, I don't think the Secretariat could even call for this commission to sit and come up with these emoluments or approve them. So in essence, Article 232 of the Constitution has been breached by the drawing of these emoluments, or whatever body or whatever law they may have used. It may actually be unlawful or illegal. So we need to look at constitutional issues extremely seriously as a nation, the person occupying the highest office in the land must be able to respect the very essence of our democracy. Because this country, we agreed as the Zambian people that we shall be a constitutional democracy. And by virtue whereof, the constitution should reign supreme. The grand norm of this country remains the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia. And therefore, even the President of the Republic of Zambia must respect and protect the Constitution. And actually, the reality is, I think which even takes me to the other petition which we've actually filed into court to try and question the Constitutional Court as to whether a person that has violated provisions of the Constitution, a person that has violated provisions of the Constitution can qualify to file in a nomination for the position of president, having considered that that position is actually constitutional. And here is a person who is sworn in to protect and defend the very constitution that they want to file in to occupy a constitutional office. So it's an interesting petition that we've actually filed into court, which, if it comes in our favor, because what we are contending is that a person that violates a constitution does not qualify to even stand or file in a nomination for a constitutional office. And we are saying that President Hakainde does not even qualify to look at going to the Electoral Commission of Zambia in 2026 to file in his nomination because he's a candidate for impeachment. The only reason why we have not had this notice of motion before the National Assembly to impeach this president is because in a normal democracy, by the way, it would have gone by now. He would have been impeached because 10 provisions of the Constitution were violated in a normal setup. But because our colleagues are using the arrogance of numbers...
Celestine, coming to the issue of impeachment, I know that there was an attempt in Parliament to impeach the president because the Constitutional Court highlighted several articles of the Constitution that were breached in an attempt to bring Bill 7 to Parliament and to pass it as law. My question is on the Speaker of the National Assembly. I think when she announced, when she was in Muchinga, that Bill 7 is alive and is before Parliament, and later she again announced that there were chiefs that were persuading her that she should ensure that the Bill 7 passes as law. Yet the Constitutional Court had struck down, this process. What are you doing about the Speaker? I think you had started some contempt proceedings because to date she has not removed Bill 7 from the floor of the House. It's still a pending bill. It's still an active bill. Neither has the Minister of Justice withdrawn that bill.
Well, very true. You may remember that some fortnight ago, we actually filed into the Constitutional Court to initiate contempt proceedings, committal and contempt proceedings against the Speaker of the National Assembly, Madam Nelly Muti, as well as the Minister of Justice. The reason we did that is because the court judgment has not been respected. Now, this is an issue. It's actually a fight for the strength of governance institutions. I've on several occasions reminded people that actually this, whatever it is that we're doing, is not even political. And people should not make any mistake to think it's political. The reason we are doing this is because we need to fight for the strength of institutions of government. We have since commenced contempt proceedings against the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Minister, and the reason is because they have not abided or obeyed the judgment of the court. They have not withdrawn the court, the bill. And when you read the judgment says the respondent violated, the respondent violated. They came up with a bill and it did not live up to the spirit of the Constitution. So in essence, it's a violation. Anything that violates the Constitution must be withdrawn. You shouldn't even look at it. Because when you look at it, it means you yourself, you're committing a violation. it becomes unconstitutional to even look at it. So the question is, why is the Speaker still maintaining this bill on the floor of the House? And she gave an excuse the other day when Honorable Simumba raised an issue in the National Assembly to say, no, the mover of the bill has not withdrawn it, and besides, there's nothing anyone can do about it. Very unfortunate. Anything that is declared unconstitutional should not even be looked at. Why do we want to legitimize unconstitutional acts? So we are very hopeful. We are very hopeful that the courts will give us a judgment or a ruling in the affirmative in our contempt matter. We are very hopeful that we may as well record for the first time in the history of this country that a Speaker of the National Assembly, a serving Speaker of the National Assembly, went to prison for contempt, or a serving Minister of Justice is going to prison for contempt, because we need to start respecting institutions of government. We need to start respecting constitutional offices. You see, it's very disheartening to even see men of the cloth, such as the Speaker and the Speaker, not respecting provisions of the Constitution, or perhaps even giving an excuse to say, because the mover of the bill has not withdrawn that. But you're seated on an illegality. The best you can do is to follow what the Constitution says. It does not require rocket science for anyone to remind you to say, there is an illegality here, it must be withdrawn. But alas, we're waiting for the court to actually determine. Besides, today in the morning, I actually had a matter, the hearing on the same contempt matter, and we're hoping very soon we'll have a ruling or a judgment from the court.
Yeah, speaking of matters of that are in court, to our dear viewers and for those that are members of the Patriotic Front, there's a matter that is in court that is coming up tomorrow. Remember, Brian Mundubile and 8 other MPs had sued, together with Honorable Reverend Nakachinda, had sued Malsampa for illegally holding that conference and to attempt to return the PF to the original owner. And there was a remarkable thing that happened in March. The judge, first of all, ruled that in light of this application, there should be no changes done to the office bearers at the Registrar of Societies. And the two parties filed in a consent judgment. It shouldn't have taken so long. We are now we are in November going to December. That matter has not been determined. However, Judge Concepta Zulu last month finally heard the application for the consent judgment. But what she stated was that there were a fresh application from expelled MP from Mafinga, Robert Chavinga, and his so-called Secretary General, Morgan Ngona, and that they had joined to this matter. So she couldn't grant the consent judgment. So that matter is coming up tomorrow. I'm laughing because Chavinga keeps on telling people that he has a certificate of ownership of the PF from Registrar of Societies in his pocket. If he has, he's in strong contempt against the order that was made by Judge Zulu on 25th March 2025, where she directed that there should be no further changes. Because remember, at this stage, changes were made from Edgar Lungu and others to Malsampa and others. So in that March 25th order and ruling, she had directed that no further changes should be done. So if the Registrar of Societies has made those changes, Celestine, you guys in the party and in the legal department with Mr. Tsanga, you need to follow up and ensure that Robert Chavinga and Morgan Ngona do not purport to have ownership of the party. And if they were granted by the registrar, you need to summon the registrar immediately to contempt proceedings. So it's a matter for your notice and for what you can follow up. But what is important is tomorrow, Brian Mundubile, Malsampa, Honorable Raphael Nakachinda, we hope that they can bring him from prison into court. They will be hearing that matter before Judge Zulu to hear the facts as they argue. Lucky enough, both Mausamp and the PF have agreed that the conference held in October 2023 is a nullity because it didn't follow any procedure. The joining of Robert Chabinga is just another matter. I think it's of nuisance value, and we hope that the court should rise above the petty issues and the partisan issues and just grant the PF back to its owner. So that matter is coming up. Members of the Patriotic Front take interest and go to court. I want to move you to what happened in Kabwe and to the issues of the state of the nation. Let me just play some videos from Chingola, not Kabwe, Chwempala, Chingola. There are major developments that have occurred since the Chwempala saga.
When we saw the fire happening, we were very, very distraught. We are very sorry to all those who are trading here, who have lost their stores, who have lost their merchandise, who have lost money here. We are sorry about that. That's why we're here to find a solution to the fire that took place here. Ichalenga titwise kuno twali kuntikirwa n'obulanda pakumono kwewati market yapyano omuliro inenga kateka wenu natitetintanna leke lukopa beoti kamfike kuli ichikiriro mbonetola yapo abana. Leave those guys there. Leave them. Natumfwane mkwai nisikulia mabwe Natumfwane mkwai nisikulia mabwe
yangu kulia mabwe kulia mabwe. What do you make of that? Many people are holding it that what happened in Chingola is the state of the country. First of all, these are all his members, transported by his party, organized by his party structures. He came to address the issues of the bent Chwempala market, but he forgot to attend to the Senseli issue where we had lost 27 lives, and to our knowledge, some bodies are still entombed there, and there's been a change of ownership. I think the mine has been given to, the West Copper Dump has been given to an entity, and the Jerabos have been set aside. There's a claim that they'll be paid $4 million. But that is an issue of disaffection. And also Chingola, he got some of the highest votes on the Copper Belt in Chingola because there are inherent issues. KCM and the way KCM just brought that town to its knees. And issues of Jerabos, who then have tried to scrounge for their life. And like I was saying, many people hold that that is a window of what's happening in the country in light of the highest cost of living, literally in living memory, the load shedding crisis we've put our country, where power cuts are going on up to 21 or 24 hours, and cost of, like I said, cost of living, price of fuel, millimil, and other things. What is your take on this matter?
Well, it's actually very amazing that we are having such developments because you see, there is an issue of failure to pay attention to detail by this government. For me, I would have expected that the president was going to address even the issue of Celestine, because he knew the moment he got at the gutted market site, he would even hear, from those videos, would hear the marketeers shouting, "Senseli, Senseli," and those were shouting that with a lot of anger in them. I would have expected that, apart from addressing the issue of the gutted market, we would have expected that the president was going to address the issue of the Senseli mine. But alas, there was nothing that he tried to address with regards to that. And I think, there's so much anger that comes as a result of the hunger situation that we are faced with in the country. Imagine the source of livelihood for these Jerabos, for these people in Chingola, is the fact that the same mine was the source of their livelihood. And the head of state, having been presented with an opportunity to meet the Zambian people in Chingola, did not hurriedly address that issue. And you see, it's something that actually breeds a lot of contempt in them, because they feel that the entity that the government has decided to even give that mine to is not even benefiting the produce, or the proceeds are not even benefiting the local miners. And these are the same people that this president signed a social contract with, agreeing that they are artisanal miners and they need to be able to be empowered in real terms. But the opposite is happening. So in essence, we are seeing such kind of anger being exerted on the head of state in a manner that was done. Of course, we do not wish to have a country where the head of state is stoned. We do not wish to have a country where ministers are disliked in that manner. But our colleagues need to develop a sense of social intelligence. They need to be able to know that when you are going into an area, the way I understand even movements of the president, before the president can even go into an area, there's always an advance party who gets into the area, collects data in real terms as to what is obtaining on the ground, and advises command to say, this is what is obtaining. When the president comes, they need to address this issue, they need to talk about this and that. To my surprise, having even realized the state of the area in terms of the security state, they still allowed the head of state to get into the area. It's very unfortunate that we got ourselves in that state. And I think it's actually the general overview in the whole country with regards to what they feel, because the country feels right now that the state is not paying attention to very critical issues. Critical issues such as the high cost of living. They are concentrating on things that do not even matter. Imagine today we are concentrating on amending the Constitution. The Constitution which does not even require any amendment. A Constitution that does not even require any refining, because it's a document that has not been fully tested. And by fully tested, I mean provisions of this Constitution have not been fully tested. If anyone in this country feels that there's a provision that produces a repugnance, a lacuna, or an inconsistency, any person should be able to take that provision before the Constitutional Court for interpretation. But we are busy paying attention to amending the Constitution when the high cost of living is looming out there, when the cost of millimil is at the highest in the history of this country, when the cost of fuel is at the highest in the history of this country. So it's extremely disappointing that we've reached such levels where the state, the government, the regime is no longer paying attention to the well-being of the Zambian citizens. So in essence, whatever may have transpired in Chingola, which is very sad, regrettable, and unfortunately, interestingly so, and this is one thing, Ambassador, I want us to really look at. Interestingly so, like you mentioned, these colleagues actually ferried their cadres into Chingola. They ferried their people into that area to the extent that they even gave them placards. But when you look at those placards, our colleagues became so innovative that behind the same placards, where it's on CDF, behind there it's written, they could write to say, lekeni film lechta, not chula chafula, you know, where they are writing to say, insala, senseli. It's amazing that it could reach such a level. Now, another issue is, currently as we're talking, the police have actually given a statement that they've arrested, they've effected some arrests. But amazingly, the arrests that they are effecting are those of UPND members. So how then do our colleagues, I heard Mwaliteta the other day indicating that those, whatever happened or transpired in Chingola may have been arranged or organized by the opposition, which is not even making sense, because right now as we're talking, it is UPND members that are being arrested. Clearly, the UPND youths are being arrested. So where does the opposition even come in? Unfortunately, the hunger situation is not only in the UPND, because now when we were talking to say we are feeling hungry, you know, we don't have food, our colleagues who are the so-called praise singers continue defending the wrongs of this government. Now it appears as though we've reached a stage where the same praise singers have now realized that we are living, the hunger that Mukandila would feel is the same hunger that a praise singer would feel. So we've seen members of the UPND being picked up by the police and being arrested over the Chingola issue, the Chingola saga. Very unfortunate that we would even reach such levels. And apart from that, it's very clear that as opposition, I mean, for example, as PF, we are extremely busy trying to ensure that we build the party, we ensure that we have our convention, delegates are busy trying to meet different delegates and campaigning. We can't even concentrate or pay attention to the failures of this nation because of this government or this regime, because we already know that this is a failed regime. That is why we are regrouping and ensuring that we mobilize the party, we strengthen the party in readiness, because we are a government in waiting, in readiness to come and challenge this regime in 2026. So when you check even in Lusaka, imagine the head of state could even point out to saying, when people are talking bad about UPND, you need to start talking. There's CDF, there's free education, there's whatever. But the general overview, if you are going to talk about agricultural bumper harvest of maize grain, it should also be able to trickle down to the pricing. But it's not there. The Zambian people are not feeling that. So even the UPND themselves, they are feeling it. So they can't even talk. Try today, get onto a bus, even from Kulima Tower going to Kabwata, mention that UPND is working. The way the members of the community in that bus will be able to talk in a lot of distaste is amazing. And the head of state is aware. That is why he even made that statement to say, you need to start defending, you need to speak out. But what is there to defend? I think it's unfortunate there's nothing to defend when there is failure that is written on the face of the UPND itself. So we had scenarios where members of the UPND would even reach the level of insulting the very institutions that guard, the institutions of governance, such as the police, the defense forces. The UPND members are even insulting them that they did not protect the president. But you see, power is wielded in the hands of the Zambian people, those that are in power today must always be reminded that the people decide. And as of next year, the people shall decide. Now, the level of hunger that is there is one that is extremely apparent. Because of that, people have reached a point of even reacting. It's unfortunate, but we shouldn't have a scenario where now we even have a minister going out there, or is it a member of parliament in Wengwa, going out there and ordering or directing his cadres to say now Kadarism is back. And that in itself is actually an offense. That is inciting violence. And the penal code is extremely clear on that one. Should be section 91A, which is extremely clear on that one, that any person who incites violence commits an offense, which is inciting violence. And it even carries with it a penalty of 7 years imprisonment, not less than 7 years imprisonment. Or is it not more than 7 years imprisonment? But in essence, you've got such happening. But the Zambian people actually have seen. It's like the UPND does not learn from history. And maybe we can say politicians have a tendency of not learning from history. But in this case, it should not even be politicians. It is the UPND that have got a tendency of not learning from history. Because by now they should have known that amongst the major issues that booted out the PF from power was the issue of cadres. But you've seen a member of parliament on top of his voice with a lot of cadres down there, even instructing to say, now I am declaring that Kadarism has begun. Who does that? Is this the kind of country we want? Is this the kind of quality that President Hakainde once bragged that is going to give the Zambian people? Very unfortunate. I don't think this is what we want to see in the country. We want to see a country where people will be able to respect the rule of law, people will be able to respect institutions of government, people will be able to respect court judgment, and that's the kind of country we want to see. Not where Mwali Teta will come out and say, we've got 15,000 youths who we are going to transport to Chingola to go and sort out people in 8 buses. I don't even know how that math is mathing, because it's not even making sense. So that's the quality of leadership that is there in the UPND. Unfortunately, that is what the Zambian people have been subjected to. That is the mediocrity, for lack of a better term, that the Zambian people have been subjected to. But we shouldn't get to that. So I believe we've got, in a democracy, the strength of any democracy is the strength of institutions of government. The police have to be respected by these cadres. These cadres, and these are panga-wielding cadres, because I have experienced a scenario where these panga-wielding cadres attacked me in Kawambwa. And I know there is so much cadreism in the UPND. And it's even gone worse because now they are abducting people. I've got a youth in the PF that was abducted by these colleagues. And it even reached the extent of beating this youth almost to his death and dumping him at a police station. Imagine where this country has gone to. And it's very sad. And the Zambian people don't like that. And amazingly, Ambassador, today was supposed to be the last date for the voter registration. And when you go to the polling stations, it was amazing today that the polling stations were filled with people. That gave a sense of the Zambian people wanting real change. And the language now is what they want is everything new, from president going down to the ground. So it's amazing that there were a lot of queues today, people registering to vote, because the Zambians are aware that the only weapon we have now going forward is the voter's card. And the Zambian people are aware that this voter's card and their vote must be protected and defended at all costs to ensure that we liberate ourselves from this regime and their misbehaviors in the way they are running the affairs of the country. Imagine today On the other end, you've got the Minister of Misinformation. I want to start calling my my good comrade Cornelius Mwetwa, that is the Minister of Misinformation. We've got the other side, the Permanent Secretary, who is equally my good friend, Tabo Kawana, the PS of Misinformation. The other side, you've got the police giving a different statement. The other side, you've got the UPND giving a different statement. The other side, you've got... so it's a complete mess. They are very much uncoordinated, and that is where we are. The level of confusion we are experiencing, we are seeing in the way they are issuing statements is exactly the level of confusion upon which our country is being run by these colleagues. So we are in this is a sorry sight, Ambassador, and we must only pray that at least the little dignity that is left in institutions of government should remain as we come to take over in 2026. Because the very thing we'll have in 2026 will be to ensure that we regain and restore the dignity of the civil service. We restore the dignity and respect deserving of being accorded to the civil servant, and that is going to be the biggest issue that we'll be faced with. Because what is happening is our colleagues have literally vilified and damaged the strength of our institutions of governance. So I only hope people can be a bit more patient as we approach next year to go and vote and ensure that we defend and protect our democracy.
Thank you very much. Dear viewers, it's your time to participate in this broadcast. We are hosting a renowned Lusaka lawyer, Celestine Mukandila, is a Tonse Alliance National Youth Chairperson. He's a member of the Central Committee of the Patriotic Front, and is a well-known activist, especially on the legal and civil matters. I'm going to read something that has just come up. Today, President Edgar Lungu was born on this day. It's his birthday, so heavenly birthday wishes to the late President Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu. I also remember that this is a day we put to rest President Michael Sata, 11th November 2014. So something has just come up, and I'm going to read it. The former president of Malawi, His Excellency Bakili Muluzi, has been part of the mediation process in attempting to bridge the differences between the family and the family of the late president and President Hakainde Hichilema. So on this day today, he has just released a formal letter to the family, and it's a statement of gratitude and solidarity. Because the news is just breaking, I'll use the opportunity just to read parts of the letter. So the letter by former president of Malawi, Bakili Muluzi, to the family of the late president, he has stated the following: statement of gratitude and solidarity, honoring the late 6th president of the Republic of Zambia, His Excellency Mr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu. It has now been 5 months since the passing of His Excellency Mr. Chagwa Lungu, the 6th president of the Republic of Zambia, on 5th June 2025. This period has been marked by deep national sorrow and heartfelt concerns across Southern Africa region and the continent. I wish to acknowledge the courage, dignity, and patience of the Zambian people who have continued to uphold peace, unity, restraint during this difficult time. I respectfully encourage continued prayers and compassion, particularly for the former First Lady, Mama Esther Lungu, the children and the extended family. I remain deeply appreciative of His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia, for his readiness to receive my phone calls, and consider my humble counsel and inquiries as I sought to understand and what was at stake in this matter. It's a very long letter. He's also thanked His Grace Bishop Professor Joshua H.K. Banda. He's also thanked Dr. Alik Banda, the Lusaka Archdiocese Catholic Bishop. He has thanked Her Excellency Ms. Grasa Machel, former Nelson Mandela's spouse, who reached out personally to the former First Lady and offered reassurance. He has also recognized the contribution of Honorable Thandi Modise, who was appointed by the government of South Africa to work closely between President Hakainde Hichilema, the family, and DECO. He's also made profuse gratitude to Honorable Council Makebi Zulu, who handled process and communication and who was always available for this discussion between the various parties. He says his role was to understand, restore calm, and help the people of Zambia and Southern Africa, because President Edgar Lungu was not just an asset of Zambia, but was an asset of Southern and Africa. What is his conclusion? It's a very long letter. So after explaining all this, he says, however, given the prevailing circumstances and the inability to secure a conclusive pathway forward, it has now become necessary for me to withdraw my mediation process. And I am returning this matter to the family, to the Zambian people, and the Zambian government and other processes that have been involved. This will allow final arrangement for the burial of the departed former president in a manner that will consider fitting, respectful, and to get this matter closure. May the soul of His Excellency Edgar Chagwa Lungu rest in eternal peace. May the people of Zambia be strengthened with wisdom, unity, and grace. So clearly, the former president, Bakili Muluzi, has withdrawn from this process. He's been a reliable backroom operator in calling the family, calling Makebi Zulu, calling the South African government, calling President Hakainde Hichilema, calling the other parties, as he has mentioned in the late Archbishop Dr. Alik Banda and Archbishop Joshua H.K. Banda. So he has said he has played his role, but he hopes that the parties remaining will resolve this matter. And I think that is a matter that we are all worried about, that it hasn't been settled. What are your just brief views before we invite callers about this matter regarding the late president, who we haven't put to rest yet?
Yeah, I think for me, I believe the person who ought to have ensured that this whole process is not even extended in this manner should have been President Hakainde Hichilema, because I don't think it's even right that we should continue to have discussions when we had agreed in the first place. The agreement was already done. And government had breached the agreement from the look of things. But it was not even necessary for us to reach this level. There is nothing, totally nothing wrong with President Hakainde deciding not to even attend this procession. And there's nothing wrong with President Hakainde to even respect the will or the wish of the family in this respect. Remember, we're dealing with a grieving family. And it's extremely important to understand that when you're dealing with a grieving family, it's extremely important to also handle them with a lot of caution. Now we're dealing with a grieving family, not of an ordinary family, but of a former first family. So it's extremely sensitive. Would only have hoped that Comrade Bakili Muluzi would have thought of not stopping with the conversation, but to see it through to the end. I only hope we'll be able to to have finality to this matter.
Okay, dear callers, the line is open. You referred to the statement by Wengwa MP, Kasautu Michelo, who has said they are going to disregard the directive of the president on political violence, and he says Kadarism is back. We'll meet them head to head. I've always argued that the UPND is one of the most violent parties Zambia has ever had. And they escape blame because the pressure was put on the ruling party who were in government. The MMD, when they were when the Mopatizia formula was in full force, and saw loss of lives, loss of public property and public processes, and against Edgar Lungu. So Zambians have always blamed the Kadarism on either Rupia Banda or Edgar Lungu, but they've never condemned or perpetrated or condemned the violence perpetrated by UPND, because of course the pressure was on the ruling party that you have the instruments of power, and therefore you should contain the violence. But UPND is a violent party. In its DNA, the Mapatizia formula, if you don't know about it, it's something you can read about, where they said it was a violent strategy, literally. They said they were trying to stop electoral malpractices or someone stealing votes, so they began to implement what they called the Mapatizia formula. It involved sometimes banning of any government vehicle they saw, and it is a violent strategy. There's no excuse for it. And sadly, the UPND and President Hakainde Hichilema has never condemned the Mapatizia formula, has never condemned the violence. Remember, there was even one time in 2017 when both then GBM and Hakainde Hichilema said it would be panga for panga. So instead of calling for restraint, he called for a retaliatory action, and he said it would be panga for panga. So both parties have been violent. The UPND, in my view, has been a more violent party. It has escaped criticism because it was in opposition. It cannot escape that criticism now because their president is leader and head of state. And to hear the president says, I will release these cadres, I will no longer restrain them, is an act of criminality. I don't know why the president thinks that for the violence not to take place against a PF or any other is because he has restrained them. No, Mr. President, you are not following the law. The law is very clear. Violence is a criminal act. You shouldn't stop anyone. The law should stop anyone who's committing crime, whether PF or UPND. It's not up to you to stop any cadre from engaging in violence. Your role is to invoke the full wrath of the law so that everyone, the law restores peace. Not you, Mr. President, to restore peace. So the statements we are seeing from Wengwa MP present a scenario that the reason there's no violence because there's restraint by either President Hakainde Hichilema or the UPND leadership. Not because of the law. The reason there should be no violence is because of the law, not because of any other party. So let me play these videos and we invite callers. Callers, the lines are open.
You start screening them one by one. But you get arrested too. HH wants to die. The president they're studying him, they want to kill him. You go and arrest 2 people. And you can convince us as UPND members. No. You want to convince us? No. Now I want to also to tell Bakangwa. It's not only the police now. Bakangwa, please scrutinize the civil service. This civil service, most of them, the president said they will change. They have not changed. They've continued. But I told you that the commander, the commissioner of police in the Compa Belt has to resign. He has to resign. I don't care what happens, but he has to resign. That's the fact. He cannot tell me the officer in charge of Chingola must resign. Yes. The OP, he must look. I understand these things. I was once a minister. There's what you call DGOC. There's what you call PGOC. Okay, Provincial Joint Operation Commission, District Operation Commission under the District Commissioner's Office, under the provincial commissioner's office. They're all these security organs. Surely, can you arrest 2 people? First day, then the second day 4, then again, burning the portrait of the president. But okay, you did not only start by burning it. Surely, immediately after the president was secured, the portrait of the president was supposed to be secured. The tent, that was State House now. That tent was State House now. That was Eagle 1 tent, was supposed to be protected. Where was this police officer? Can you convince me where you were when they were burning? Because we saw the videos. They had all the time shaking. Where were you, police? Where were you? You know, we don't want to. Don't make us annoyed. Don't make us annoyed because on that day, no one slept. On that day, I want to tell you the truth, no one slept. Okay, that was the darkest point we've ever encountered as UPND members.
Alimi bali ku Northern Province, alimi bonse bali ku Northwestern Province. Today we have declared Kadarism has started. Kuzwa ijindi ba president ne bagajita declare no cadarism. Kuzwa ni bagajita declare no cadarism. Twabona gwamba kuti ba president babaderera alimi twabona gwamba kuti alo income bayiderera. Now we want to show them the way we are. Tuyandago ninga bonse abo bonse ibahubaya ba president. Tuyandago ninga bonse ibahubaya ba pinga. Abo zwabali yandago mujaya bantu. Pona alimi ibulelo wali la president wonka ku State House. Alimi bantu bajibwete majeje. We are coming for you. Zambia kuhumba komwa obamba kuti president ubola gogu agogo tonse gatenda mulungi kuchita tulamujisa kuti president wamujisa protect. We give respect to our police officers. We give respect to all the law enforcement agencies.
Varia who wanted to disturb us in Chingola, yesterday I hear they are planning to disturb the polling station Ninshi Kulefyo Barefwaya. When we won, I told you not to revenge, not to beat anybody. Bafule bale chindika. Mule umpaka? Bafule bale stashani? We protected them because you would have nailed them. You could have nailed them. I protected them. They must not extend their lucky.
We have the first caller on the line, and let's hear his name. He introduces himself and he makes contributions. Caller, please make your contributions and contribute.
Thank you, Ambassador Mwamba. Good evening, and good evening, our guest, our brother, Council Celestine Mukandila. I'm speaking to you from Lundazi. I'm a spokesperson to a royal establishment here in Lundazi. And I'm glad that Ambassador Mwamba, today you brought a constitutional lawyer, because constitutional matters are at our heart at this time around. Now, I'll speak about the participation of royal leadership into the amendments, establishment, and all these other matters concerning the constitution, it is concerning to us as a royal establishment that every government, starting from UNIP up to now, they call chiefs to make submissions to the constitutional amendment commissions. It is not the role of the chiefs to make submissions, because no single constitutional grouping has a right to call a chief in his personal capacity. What happens is that chiefs have got spokesperson in a royal establishment. So when you call a chief will attend because you have called him. But he's not speaking on behalf of the royal establishment. The royal establishment has sub-chiefs, villages, village headman, all these other people involved in this process. What is supposed to happen if you are making a constitutional amendment is that you are supposed to write a letter informing the chief of the constitutional amendment and the provisions which are meant to be amended. So the chief will call the royal establishment to inform them of what government intends to do in line with the constitution. Once that happens, the royal establishment calls all the responsible people and gathers information. And us, who are tasked with the responsibility to speak on behalf of the royal establishment now, sit in a constitutional review commission. You don't make a chief to sit there. This system, Honorable Mwamba, must stop. The belittling of chiefs must stop. We must begin now to follow the right procedures of how to amend a constitution or how to approach a chief. I can give you an example, a simple thing like a funeral. A villager cannot just move direct into a palace. No, there are procedures and there are people you are supposed to meet, and there are people who are supposed to meet the chief, and the chief sends a representative to talk on his behalf on that specific funeral, and he mourns with the general public. I hope this is clear. I hope this is well understood, and I hope the constitutional lawyer, in their judgment that was preceded before this event, that is highlighted, and they must take note. And so I submit to you today that submissions that were done by chiefs were not done by the royal establishment, and therefore I do not wish to say our chiefs in Lundazi submitted to this constitutional review commission. I thank you, Mama.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me take some more calls and then I will release Honorable Mukandila, but you will remain making those calls and having a discussion with me. I think Honorable Mukandila has made it has helped already in the debate. But let's see how far we can go with him looking at his program. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Hello, Ambassador Mwamba. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Dr. Jedediah Ndlovu.
Yes.
I'm currently calling you from Lusaka. Honorable Mwamba, I've brought actually a very important point on tonight's program. Firstly, I would like to speak to the situation that transpired in Chingola. Ukoba President Bale Bokwevati Baltisana protect Zambians, and that's the reason why UPND didn't beat us up. First and foremost, we must establish that what happened in Chingola has got nothing to do with the opposition. It has got nothing to do with a political party. And we must also, secondly, speak to the situation that the president knew well in advance what was going to transpire there through his intelligence and so on and so forth. So whatever happened there is something that obviously was anticipated and expected, and it is now being used as a smokescreen for the UPND government to cover up for the acts of violence that they would like to engage, especially as we go close to the polls next year. We see that there'll be a lot of intimidation, there'll be a lot of excusing or themselves, even as they engage in acts of violence. We see the entire president saying that the reason why UPND didn't do whatever they did, it's because he stopped them. That's not the truth. And we as Zambians must actually hold these our leaders accountable to the words that they speak. They should not just speak anyhow. So, Ambassador, I'm very, very disappointed, especially that this issue in the next few days will now be getting said, will now be used to stigmatize the opposition in the country. Watch the space. That's where it is going. And it will be like the opposition in Zambia is violent. The opposition in Zambia is this and that. And UPND must learn to own up and must learn to be accountable and must learn to speak the truth. This is what I really just wanted to contribute, and I would like to finally advise the opposition political leaders in our country also to learn to respond proactively to issues of this nature and not allow themselves to react, because this is what the UPND would want of our leaders. At the end of the day, we are Zambians and we must be able to move together going forward. Nobody must act like a victim, like the UPND is trying to do right now. They are trying to act like they are the victim and they want the sympathy vote again. We are not going to give them this time. Thank you so very much, Honorable Ambassador Mwamba. Thank you.
I'm grateful. Thank you. Thank you. Let me take the third caller. We allow Honorable Council Mukandila to answer, then we will release him, and then I can remain taking your calls. Hello, callers, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Yes, Ambassador. I'm Alfred Durande.
Yes.
I'm calling from Kitwe.
Okay, yes, my brother, how are you?
Ambassador, ndivyo kuranda fadi issue ya chitike kuchingola.
Yes.
That issue, Ambassador, the issue ya kudilinga na ma opposition now, ila issue ila andi again ila issue ni sign ya go febili. Ilela nga febili background abantu tabasekera mu fili chitika background. Ifo butiko bule tungwe tabasekera so ila ni sign vya go febili. Ile balanga petimu na to say 2026 kuya febili.
Okay.
Atotela sana Ambassador.
Let me take the other calls. There's another call. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Oh, caller. Just a minute. There's another call coming in. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador.
Good evening.
Thank you so much. I think today's contribution, I just want to point out a few things.
Yes.
I agree with the previous caller to say this government, or the current political party in charge, doesn't seem to want to take any responsibility for any of their own failures.
Yes.
If we look at the Copper Belt issue, it's very interesting to see that now some of his surrogates are coming out and saying it was the opposition who were behind the stoning. instead of just acknowledging to say, actually, there might be sections of society that we haven't served to the best of our ability, and just put your hands up and say, do you know what, we failed society here. I'd also like to just spend a second just talking about the energy problem, electricity load shedding. Again, if I look at previous governments, the load shedding issue, I think, is a national issue that needs to be addressed at national level. It's not just for one political party. I think there needs to be engagement across the spectrum. Load shedding, we can all say that under the current administration, they have struggled a lot more. The amount of energy available to people is very little. You've talked about the fact that some of these parastatals have gotten external debt. Now, how is ZESCO going to service this external debt if they're never producing and never selling electricity? I know there's been a lot of talk about nuclear energy, but what I'd like to see is potentially us looking at coal energy. I know it's not the cleanest, but we have a crisis on our hands.
Yes.
This isn't just about industries being able to produce goods. It's also about families, homes, being able to put the lights on. Even from an education perspective, how do kids of the future study for exams, prepare for exams, if there are no lights? So we're not damaging today, we're also damaging tomorrow's Zambia.
Yeah.
We all need to come together and work on these issues. I would also like to just finally talk about the state of where we are on Valungu, bless his soul. After everything that he's done for this nation, we might disagree with him politically, but at the end of the day, he's tried his best. The nation has only had 7 leaders out of the 22 million people that we have today and all those that have left us. If one leader cannot respect the previous person that occupied that seat, where are we as a nation? We've got to respect each other. There's got to be that level of respect for the previous office bearer. Give him the dignified bearer that he deserves. Let's put this matter to bed and let's move forward as a nation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, caller from the United Kingdom. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Is that me? Hello?
Yes, it is you. It is you.
Yes, hi. Mwamba.
And Dita.
This is Prof. Kalonde.
Yes, Professor.
Yeah, I want us to look at this issue from a different angle, the Chingola incident.
Yes.
I want us to also be critical thinkers and think very, very deeply on this matter. Could this incident have been somehow organized by UPND and the team in UPND or the government? That way, probably we could have some issues during the elections next year. Because what you should understand is this, you see, the UPND and the whole government has seen where the country is going and has seen that probably Kapadi Fiabo next year. So how do we stop this organization of people to campaign or to even have an election? Or maybe to put soldiers and police in full gear, military gear, at polling stations to scare people from going to vote.
It could be a scheme. Professor, you are purporting, yes. You are stating that it could be a scheme by the ruling party to...
Exactly.
Okay.
You have heard how the guy, I think that was in the presidency birthplace, how he was saying that number to tampakadarism.
Yes.
Which means that anybody who says anything in Zambia today or even organize a small thing becomes a victim of violence from UPND. You do remember that somehow UPND was even more violent than any other party that we've had in Zambia. But you know what? They were hiding somehow. Even the burning of the market in Chiwempala, could it have been a scheme?
Yes, Professor.
That we had the markets burned during PF, and the PF just rebuilt those markets and all such things. We don't know where this thing is coming from, and we must be very careful as a nation the way we handle it. We must be very careful the way we understand it. Otherwise, we can be duped. We might start fighting our own ghost, and you know what? Leaving the true culprit in front of us, or even having some sympathy for the devil when the devil is the one going after us. Sorry, I'll give you a chance, and I'll come back in Mwamba to contribute more. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Kalonde says it could be a conspiracy by the UPND to affect. Let me just take the last call. I have two waiting. Zephania, I think that's Zephania. I've now come to know the number. Zephania, make your contributions quickly so that we can allow Council Mukandila to answer.
Good evening, Mukandila and the Ambassador Mwamba. Actually, the previous caller, I think I have same sentiments also, because when you see our President Hakainde Hichilema, it is not the first time to come out to the people to say, we are going to do Mingalato. And it was in the Copper Belt again, he was addressing the UPND members. And thereafter, we saw people started being beaten, and we saw how they started now trying to say PF was grabbed and so forth. Now, what is more worrying, Mwamba, is that we are going towards general elections. Now, if the commander-in-chief is speaking that
who wanted to disable
denied when we won, we were supposed to nair you. It seems like there was a crime which PF committed, that after losing power, and President Edgar Lungu, may he so rest in peace, he handed over power peacefully. Then there was a crime which PF committed. That, as Zambians, we must say, we are saying no, how the president, he is the police. Whatever the president speaks, it becomes policy. So the president, he has to be very careful. That's why you have seen in Southern Province that a member of parliament, he has now said, we have declared that Kadalism is back. Because everyone, we have seen Comrade Mwaliteta also is saying we could have sent 15,000 youths to Copper Belt. Now, and the one funny thing which is, I was confused when Mwaliteta was saying that they wanted to send 15,000 youths and using 8 buses. Now, when you divide that, it means they were supposed to use 1,875 youths to go to the Copper Belt. So this is so worrying, where that today we see the ruling party has become uncomfortable because the people have already made a decision. What is supposed to be done, the issue of Chingola Mwamba, the solution the president knew, and the State House said that that project, when the president went there, he was not part and parcel of that tour. But when he insisted the president himself to go that side, so why bringing in now opposition party to say they are the ones who mobilized people, and now they want to turn war against the people who voted for UPND? You remember in 2026, Chingola voted highly. So now, if people are start hearing that, meaning Zambians were becoming worried. So as opposition parties, let's speak. I'm calling out the churches. I'm calling out CSOs. Let's speak to the power. Let's speak to the power, because Zambia, we are now at a danger zone. And it's true, could be a conspiracy so that in the next few days towards the election, there will be curfew and the elections won't be there. So they are trying to use all means, because they have seen that the power is slipping off into their hands, because they have not fulfilled the promises which they promised the Zambian people. Mwamba, right now, I'm speaking as I conclude. I'm right, yes, 30 minutes here. I'm right, 30 minutes here. How are we going to grow our economy? I think President Hakainde and his people therefore, let them hand over power peacefully because people have decided they want change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zephania. My last caller on this round. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
From KwaZulu Natal.
Yes, my dear brother from KwaZulu Natal. Make your contributions.
Yeah, my contribution, my question was supposed to have gone to Council Makebe yesterday, but since we have got Council Celestine today,
yes,
as we are going through these PF electoral processes, we elect the candidate for PF. My question is, how are we handling these mingalatos about PF with Chawinga?
Okay, okay. Thank you. He's
we
going
might
to
go into this process, which might end up an exercise in futility. Okay. So can we find a solution first to how we get our PF back? Then we think about who's going to stand in the next election. Otherwise, we'll continue going. We might even end up in the 2026 without having PF in our hands. What is the Council Celestine and the team doing within the PF structures to ensure that PF goes back to the original owners? That's my submission, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. For dear callers, let's wait for Council Celestine Mukandila to answer, and then we'll come back to the callers. Celestine, kindly take up those concerns.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ambassador, and thanks very much to the callers. So you see, it's extremely disappointing that the president had to make such a statement, which clearly shows lack of leadership in the head of state. How do you then indicate that it is because of you that the Zambian people are enjoying even peace and tranquility? It is not because of you, Mr. President. There is a law that allows for people to be free. There is a law that requires that the Zambian people must enjoy their freedoms of association, their freedoms of movement, their freedom of speech, and all that. So the Constitution guarantees these human rights. These are human rights issues. There's a law that even allows you, Mr. President, to be in that state house. So you cannot decide to say, it is because I protected you. The law protects us. And this is exactly what we are saying. Zambia is a democratic state. We should not make these heads of states or politicians think they own us, they own the authority. They don't. What they do is they have to respect the law, and the law must reign supreme. The Constitution of the Republic of Zambia must be respected. And that is extremely important to understand. The leadership must understand that. So, and in essence, the Chingola saga, unfortunate as it may have been, there are small-scale miners in Chingola, there are artisanal miners in Chingola, who ought to have been given an opportunity to access these resources that we've been endowed with by the Almighty God. The only thing government ought to have done in the first place was to ensure that they engage the artisanal miners, who some of them even have artisanal mining licenses, engage them and ensure that they engage in best mining practices in terms of safety and all that. That is the primary thing that you do to ensure that the wheels of the economy of an area such as Chingola continues to move, because you engage them, you encourage them to use the best practices in terms of mining safety and all that. So in essence, that was supposed to have been done, and I believe that should still be done up to now. Now, going to the issue of the president deciding to make certain statements, and the fact that whatever statement the president makes actually is and remains state policy, it is normally reduced. I was privileged to analyze data at the Office of the Vice President once upon a time. And these are some of the things that we would reduce into writing. Any speech that is made by the president is reduced into writing, and it becomes a presidential speech put into government assurances. So it becomes a government assurance eventually. So I think in essence there is need for those that are handling this president to remind him on the best practices as of the head of state. The head of state must know what he says at whichever juncture or whichever platform is found in. Clearly, when you look at the statement that was made by the Bwengwa member of parliament, it shows clearly that this head of state may not even have a hold of his lieutenants. This is the head of state who's on top of things saying, I do not allow or accept cadreism. But his lieutenants are doing the exact opposite. So it clearly shows that he does not have a hold of his lieutenants. He doesn't have a hold of his structures. He cannot command authority over his structures. We need him to remind his people. And he has to operate and behave like a president. I think this is where we now need to start getting back to. The presidency is an institution which is constitutional in nature, by the way. And because of that, it must be conducted in a manner that the law requires. So I think in essence, we must be able to remind our leaders every other time that the power that they wield resides in the people of Zambia. We, the people, give ourselves unto this constitution, and we, the people, give the same power that this president has and the leadership of this nation. So it starts from the people. And that is why we're saying, even when it comes to instilling a leader, we've got a right, we've got a voter's card. And right now I encourage everyone to say, with the extended period for voter registration, I would want those that have not yet registered to go and register to vote. It is extremely important, more so that we're dealing with a regime that does not want to listen to the wills of authority and the whims of the people. So I think in essence, Ambassador, it's extremely important to remind our colleagues. We remind our colleagues that the nation's tranquility and the nation's laws must be respected at all times.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. Celestine, thank you for gracing this broadcast today, and thank you for, joining us, and we wish you very well in things you are doing, especially in the patriotic front, the matters that you've taken to the High Court, the Constitutional Court. Continue to fight. Just offer your last remarks before I let you go. And to the dear callers, I can see if you still want to call, I can see the phones were buzzing. You still can contribute while we release Mr. Celestine Mukandila. Celestine, offer your last remarks.
Oh, thank you very much, Ambassador, for having me here. And I want to really echo on the fact that the Zambian people must always remember that we've got a duty, and our primary duty is the protection and defense of the Constitution of the Republic. The protection and defense of the Constitution of the Republic is one that always comes supreme, because it is the basis and the primary basis of our democracy. So we must be able to guard jealously this constitution that we have. And of course, the issue of Robert Chavinga and whatever machinations that have been happening, I believe so much that either tomorrow or the other day, someone should be able to report these colleagues to the police for having even abrogated court rulings, and there should be contempt proceedings even commencing for these issues. Because you see, matters involving the court require very serious, the very seriousness that required, because you cannot intimate or indicate that you've got the ownership of a political party when the courts have indicated to say the status quo remains the same, and you cannot or no longer address yourself as such. So clearly, we've got a state that does not want to ensure that the law is applied equitably. And in essence, I want to encourage Zambians and encourage everyone that it is darkest before dawn, but what is important for us to realize is that we are almost there. I think we have seen the mountaintop. We should be able to get to the promised land, and very soon we shall get there. We should not give up. Many of us will be bruised, either politically, financially, or emotionally, but we must remain resolute to ensure that we protect and defend our democracy and the rule of law and the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia. Otherwise, thank you very much, and good evening, Ambassador. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear viewers, we're hosting Celestine Mukandila, a lawyer of repute, renowned lawyer in Lusaka, and we're giving analysis to the state of the nation. I'm releasing him now. For those that were calling and wish to contribute, we can stay another 5-10 minutes and allow you to make your contributions.
But we want to help them to protect the president. Alimi bali ku Northern Province, alimi bonse bali ku Northwestern Province. Today we have declared Kadarism has started working.
Yes, for those that wish to call, it's your time to call just in the next 5-10 minutes. Let's hear you. I've released Honorable Celestine Mukandila, but if we're participating in the debate, you can make your contributions. Caller, tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador.
Good evening.
My name is Mphatso, calling from Chingola.
Yes, my brother. Niwo wali kuchue mpale ko wali?
Shaliko.
Ati mwalipepeka wakateka huku indeko kuima helikopter kuimina mgear 5 tamwako ati olusemwe wantu wakwalesi.
Awe chari chabulanda sana Ambassador kwena.
Endita.
It was an unfortunate incident nevertheless.
You make your contributions, my brother.
Thank you, Ambassador. It's my first time being here, but glad to be part of this program because I usually follow you for a number of shows that you do, hosting different prominent people. So my take is on the incident that happened over the weekend over our president. I am of the view that security was really a huge lapse on that incident because I feel that somehow
the caller is talking about that there was security lapse. Okay, he's back. Yes, continue.
What's this? Gathering their advanced parties and whatnot. So, in this case, the feeling I have is that actually the president shouldn't have traveled all the way from wherever he lives. Of course, we know it's in Lusaka. Knowing that advanced parties and state intelligence had already gone ahead of him to assess the situation on the ground, to mean that they would have advised him to say, no, Mr. President, you cannot travel because these are things that we feel might happen if you travel there. So to me, I feel the security was not properly analyzed, was not properly done in that case. And to blame others over it, I think it's really unfair. Secondly, Ambassador, I wanted also to comment on the president's remarks. sometimes I do wonder if the president has got advisors, and later on if he listens to them. Because when you look through his statements, you will just wonder what exactly is the president standing for. Because remember, it's not everyone who voted for him. And everyone that did not vote for him are also Zambians. And that suffice to say that whatever instance that happened bordering on lawlessness, those things have to be approached using law and not emotions. But then what we see is our president usually comes out in the manner that most people just ask, why? Okay? So I would really beg our president to take an introspection, because it's very important. We need wisdom to be led in this nation, and it is him from which we expect that, because he's the number one person. We look up to him. So if he cannot provide that wisdom-based leadership, then who is going to give it to us? Especially in crisis-hit moments like where we are right now. So I thought maybe I could add my voice to that, Ambassador. I pray that someone at least tells the president the truth. Some of these things, he just doesn't tend to respond. Let other things come into play, not what we are currently witnessing. I thank you, Ambassador, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Abena Chingola. Thank you very much. Yeah, let's see the various callers that are called, and let us see if we can take one or two before we close. This is just to allow you, because this is your program. This is just to allow you to make your contributions. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Yes, evening, Ambassador. This is Titimbike Zulu from Lusaka, Zambia.
Oh, Mr. Zulu, good evening. Please make your contributions.
Thank you. For starters, I want to congratulate you for launching your own tabloid. I think now will be availed an opportunity to read balanced news. Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Secondly, also it's related to you. I want to commend you, Ambassador Mwamba, for being selfless. You know, you are also a candidate, but you are there promoting other candidates, leaving yourself behind. Because I know if it were others who could have just been hearing about themselves, their manifestos and the others. But there you are. You have put yourself behind and put the others ahead of you. That is how it should be. I commend you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Zulu.
Yes. Yes. So just with those few words, I just wanted to commend you. But also, I don't have much to say, Ambassador. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Mwamba.
Good evening.
My time zone.
Good evening.
Mwamba, I just want to comment on a very malicious and a very dangerous statement that was pronounced by an honorable MP who actually showed his face for violence and bloodshed in our country by declaring today as the first day of Kadarism commencement. Mwamba, if you are going to take that announcement lightly, as a country, we are living under a danger. What he just declared there, he even mentioned the provinces. If you listen, if you go to the video, watch it properly, listen to the provinces that he had mentioned, you're going to see that the call that is making it's a tribal remark, a massive malicious word calling on certain provinces to start tribalism. What is calling for is genocide. This is the same thing that happened in Rwanda. Does these people have no eyes to see what happened in Rwanda? It just started with one message on the radio, and the country was filled with blood. In the same way that he has started to say, lies
tribalism, this cadarism was started.
Yeah.
Mwamba.
Yeah.
Shed more light on that one. That is a very malicious statement by Honorable Member of Parliament. I don't think he deserves even to sit in the Parliament. He doesn't deserve.
No, if we are serious, he should be arrested. If we are a serious country, he should be arrested. Okay, thank you, caller. Thank you very much.
Alimi bali ku Northern Province, alimi bonse bali ku Northwestern Province. Today we have declared Kadarism has started. Bambo kuzwa ijindi ba president ne bagajita declare no cadarism. Kuzwa ni bagajita declare no cadarism. Twabona kwamba kuti ba president babaderera alimi twabona kwamba kuti alo inka mubayiderera. Now we want to show them the way we are.
Thank you. That is Wengwa MP Kasautu Michelo inciting violence under normal circumstances. He should be arrested for the incitement of violence. Okay, I think I may have the last caller and then we close. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
This is Mwamba from Livingston.
Mr. Mwewa, make your contributions.
First of all, Deposhako Avekaracharo, Varishana Avekaracharo.
You're very sure.
And they were considered to losing our hope. We're still hopeful. Now, what happened in Chingola? I think I've followed the program very well, and there's been some very good analysis from the previous scholar, and also the contribution that was done by Mr. Celestine. It was actually in order. Now, speaking kuchingola kulia. Gamarore kesha ababa to take a parikaron kashita. Ishtabari ingira mu bufumu. There were a lot of incidents that were reported relating to violence. Ngamule kupya chitiki kumandevu. Ngamule kushapa voting day paria Northwestern Province chairman for the Patriot Front Kungo lost his life that time, and there were a lot of instances of violence around the country. If I recall very well, that day kwali kuvote that day at Amana and Kanavantu, ama votes bambo kupenda, ama buses from Livingston to Lusaka daendele ama bus, even from Lusaka to Livingston daendele ama bus. I don't know about other cities, but kulu Livingston. Lusaka ama public transports. While you went so throughout the country. Now, there were such things. Number Tamulika kwa nakarimubu fumu wambo kwa pusumuka. So, kwa woku wamfiano mba misango shimosha kwa kutirati shibasunge mu bufumu. Now, what they've really worked on abantu mwenso, they know how to instill fear mu bantu. And bali shifya kuchita instill mwenso mu bantu, because icharengera ati after voting that icharengera mabasi yenda kwali mwenso throughout. Nangwa bapene so hapa na mumona if it's kuri voter registration. Voter registration, abenga abantu nabakwata omwenso baremva kwana kali munangu tarembesha tavotere takulifika chinja because nabakwata omwenso this time umuntu fenangu pepakulande chintu chili chonse there is too much fear. So kwebena Zambia, that's why whatever chilando kobe kutira ati this could mean something. They can prepare a situation knowing very well that if you want to feel it, can never calculate. And Gamayo Kshawan Winova Mwamba, who take over what was a good propaganda. Nerova Ingremufumu, Edgar Lungu, may his soul rest in peace, was labeled to be a bad man. The entire country hated Dr. Edgar Chagwarungu. Look at it at Muhiro Stadium. To the extent of booing Omuntu. All because of propaganda. Abena Zambia, the 11th of November. Umuntu wa minemu fumuna propaganda. But you are umberechara. Nanumba taturashika. Shishi wabwino ba Mwamba naranda sana pari wa naranda ko pari Varungu pano because Varungu lero yachibano kuba ni birthday yabo. Actually in birthday yabo happy heaven birthday Dr. Edgar Chagwarungu. Tatura shika na nomba nombe fana tava kupisha ko shishi befi achitika nomba kuli iri shishi baimbire uteko ira nankana iri shishi baimbire ba government shishi be no shitange fe yabanga bari shika oro ichiri open shishi but Varungu na nomba tatura shika. So if ndero mbako fena kuteko na bonsa abalanda kuteko please ilen karata ifumine kumalawi idia ya bambingu wa ya former president of Malawi Babakiri ilen karata nin karata imonda tukule twachitayi kino Babakiri barandiro kutira kubati abaisha kuleta maparties pamu baisha but basanga kutira chashupa so Babakiri batamba mu barando kubati yawe epo ninga pera papeni imbya babashara aba bashare bapikirike so that iriashi kutira sanga closure but rumba no kubukira ndumba kuna ba president ba Zambia bangu fweko inkarata ibafikire so look at the government ila tuwe kubata negotiations have been going on but there hasn't been progress. Garungu tureba shikalisa Mwamba kenishire ko mpere kwa ganjita makolas bambi.
Thank you very much. Thank you, my dear brother. I'll take the last call and we'll close. Tomorrow we have a big day. We are hosting Honorable Harry Kalaba from Citizen First. We'll be hosting Harry Kalaba from Citizen First tomorrow. But I can see they've been calls here. Let me just take the last call. I want to give chance to my callers who stay late to make these calls and wish to participate. So, caller, you are our last caller on the program. We were hosting lawyer Celestine Mukandila, although he has gone, but you can make your contributions.
I would like just to make a follow-up contribution to what I said earlier, Ambassador Mwamba.
Yes,
and I think the lawyer also reiterated my sentiments, echoed rather my sentiments, especially when it comes to presidency in our country. It's important for me that leadership is not just about making decisions. It's not just about talking howsoever you feel. A leader must respect the law and uphold democracy. A leader must actually be somebody that displays integrity and that he does. So I'm not really trying to attack the president, but what what I'm saying is that most of the people that began to react to whatever happened in Chingola are showing us certain traits that we must be aware of as Zambian people. Because, you know, they say that certain reactions to certain happenstances are a reflection of who we are dealing with. So if people can begin to call for Kadarism like that, then we know there's a problem. And lastly, may I say that the UPND Kada deployment policy is at the center of most of our problems. When they are calling for Kadaism, it is something that they are. Remember, people like what you call people like Kadimanshi and them, they were initially UPND. And we saw how that most of them came in and joined PF. They came from UPND because there's always been that culture of violence. And whatever happened in Chingola, I want to assure you, Mwamba, it is something that was well calculated. It is something that that is going to be used to excuse the violence that we'll be seeing in the country. But that is not for us to pronounce doomsday and say, well, it's going to be bad. Zambian people are ready and they are proactive people, and we are not going to react to the threats that they are being issued. We are going to do the right thing, and I want to encourage the Zambian people to register as voters. And please, Zambian people, do not react to whatever they are saying and whatever they are doing. Go ahead and register as a voter. You know what to do, and come 2026, make a right decision. Thank you so very much, Honorable Ambassador Mwamba.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I think we are done with the caller is gone. Dear viewers, today we are hosting Celestine Mukandila, and I would like to end the broadcast today, and we will see you tomorrow when we host Honorable Harry Kalaba. So God bless you, and speak to you tomorrow.
This is a direction. We will have at least 3 hours of stable power supply daily for retail customers. You can even clap for me even if you are annoyed. At least this is a direction. We will have at least 3 hours of stable power supply daily for retail customers. You can even clap for me even if you are annoyed.
Why is there no load shedding in Saudi Arabia? And there's load shedding here, where there's rain, where there's water. There's no rain, there's no water there. Brain power, thinking, vision, ichimonwa. Munenu ali mwewa takwata ichimonwa. Mamu fiantamo, mamu bika. So today you are complaining. There is no issue of climate change. It's a leadership, it's the vision that is lacking. Because the sun is shining more. When there's no rain, do you know the opposite of rain? The opposite of rain is heat, is sun. So when it rains, you can produce, under UPN, you produce power by enhancing hydro electricity generation. When there's no rain, lesser rain, it's hot, it's sunny, we generate power from solar power stations. That's the difference.
That's the 50 megawatts that you spoke about.
Yeah, but 50 in each province gives you 500 megawatts. But if you put 100 megawatts in each province, it gives you 1,000 megawatts. And you start exporting to ESCOM, and any dollars to improve your statutory, not statutory, for your reserves, you improve, the Kwacha will appreciate.
Kwenyu ndemwe chabe mabanja onanjala mkomo ndalama zonse mutumbalano masukwa kuchuluka pa mutupatu. Time is up, time is up. Kwenyu not enough. Time is up for your lies and bluff. Time is up, time is up. Kwenyu not enough. Time is up for your lies and bluff. Kanizanu ndizo panda pindu anakulira miseu mwatu tikufuna chilengede chatopano osati mapoke tanu opindika ndalama. Listen to the cries, they're louder than your lies. You can't silence the truth. It's time for the youth. Time is up, time is up. Kwenyu is not enough. Time is up for your lies and bluff. Time is up, time is up. Kwenyu not enough. Time is up for your lies and bluff. We rise, we stand, we fight together for the children, for a better forever. Kwenyu kunata pano, we take the rain. Tikonza jiko.